Open Democracy is in New York City, in downtown Manhattan, outside the New York State Supreme Court. We're here to welcome the Caravan Activists, a remarkable group of men and women who have lost sons and daughters, husbands and wives, friends and family during the 50-year war on drugs. They have made a long journey from Honduras through El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, the southern United States. Yesterday they were in Washington, D.C., the seat of American power, and today they're in New York, the day before the United Nations special session begins. They're here to petition lawmakers to end the prohibitionist, punitive policies that have cost so many lives and taken so many tax dollars over the last 50 years. We've been hearing some of their remarkable stories.
Well, a lot of the UN high-level debate is very dry, it's very technocratic, it's about laws and resolutions, and it's pretty inaccessible to the public. But what the Caravan has done, and the Anyone's Child families protest, they put a human face on that bureaucracy. They show the actual suffering and the harms that the war on drugs causes, and they make it real for people, because this isn't just about, spreadsheets of dry data. This isn't just about, faceless bureaucrats. This is actually about people's lives being harmed, people being killed, misery, bloodshed, and chaos across the world as a result of this policy. So they're telling the stories in a way that really kind of chimes with people. People can relate to it. So they're making it real and putting a human face on it. So it's hugely important in terms of bringing the public in so they can really understand what's going on.
My daughter Jack was an opiate user. I found her in an overdose one evening and rushed her to the hospital. In hospital, the doctor failed to recognize that she was indeed in an overdose situation and failed to administer naloxone, the opiate reversal drug. And I sat there and had to watch her while her respirations declined, and she eventually went into cardiac arrest and passed away, and they revived her and left it to me to decide to pull the plug. I think that Canada needs to be adequately educated and trained in responding to overdose, and I think that all measures of an overdose should be looked at. Had the drugs that my daughter was taking been legalized and regulated, they wouldn't have been cut with the levamisole that eventually led to tremendous infection within her body, causing necrotizing fasciitis or flesh-eating disease. My daughter lost her legs.
What type of reforms would you like to see to the criminal justice system and the approach to the war on drugs?
Well, I think as all wars end in tragedies, and I think the tragedies have taken their toll, I think that now you should consider alternatives to incarceration. I mean, everybody's not on drugs, but the ones that need some kind of treatment, it should be considered not just one time, several times, or the proper treatment for the proper person. Don't cookie cut these treatments and say, well, he's a heroin addict, just send him there, or he's a crack addict, send him there. No, because you got other things in between that would not make them so harshly addicted to drugs and stuff like that. I think that all these organizations and all these foundations, all these medical reports that come out, the people that put these reports in place should get together, because I don't know how to do it, but get together and do something that's not cookie cutter. A directory of, I want to say a universal directory of sorts that would help people with treatment. But the first thing, incarceration alone is a horrific thing, whether it's 1 day, 1 year, or 100 year, or these triple life sentences they give people that are just ludicrous. But there should be some treatment from the time the charges come. There should be some, something. So I think alternative to incarceration, period. A lot of people that went to jail didn't have to go, because when they went, it broke down the whole community, whole family, all these things. It's like a domino effect on everything. Now that we've had this war, the casualties are off the chart, it's time to reconsider incarceration.
And as someone with a powerful personal story, will you be hoping to speak with lawmakers and legislators?
I have spoken. I'm ready to go back and not have to talk to their clerk or their intern. I want to talk directly to them, because they are the elected officials. And if I had my way, I'd make sure that they watchdog what they do a little more, and not cutting ribbons, but cutting sentences.
Do you have hopes that over the coming decade, drug policy will begin to change and a more caring, public health-centered approach will triumph over one focused on criminal justice?
I not only have hope, I am living that. Everyone here that you see is actually working on that right now, and we have pierced the grip of punitive prohibition on the minds of not just American citizens, Canadian citizens, South American citizens, East Asia, European citizens. We have done that. We have pierced that grip that has kept us divided against ourselves.
My son Jordan was diagnosed with a minor back injury, and our physician gave him about 7 months worth of oxycodone over 7 months. He was firmly addicted. He asked to go to detox. He did go to detox and came out with no support. It was a few months later, he couldn't take the strain of withdrawal, and he relapsed, and he died from an overdose.
And how has your understanding of drug policy been influenced by the way in which medical professionals and the law reacted to the case of your son?
I have been completely radicalized by the way everything went. The doctors were not conversant in addiction and withdrawal. I've been working on that. I've been working on drug, naloxone, the drug naloxone that reverses the opioids. The Good Samaritan law, where someone will call with no consequences to emergency services. So I see that as the smaller picture. The larger picture is ending the war on drugs, which takes care of all harms. So that's what I've learned.
I've examined this drug war for well over a decade. I can come to only one conclusion. It is a fairy tale. It is a sham, scam. It has no nexus with reality. It creates profits for prison builders and tobacco companies, bankers, you name it, all these pigs feeding at the trough. It has no nexus with reality, and I'd like to ask a question, if I could, of the president or any of these mucky mucks here at the UN. It goes something like this. We all recognize the drug war empowers our terrorist enemies. If they're brave enough to grow the flowers we forbid, it enriches these barbarous cartels south of our border who have killed well in excess of 100,000, mostly innocents. It has created reason for existence here in these United States for tens of thousands of violent gangs to prowl our neighborhoods with high-powered weapons, selling contaminated drugs to our kids, enticing them to lives of crime and addiction. And the truth be told, despite the expenditure of well over $1 trillion of our taxpayer dollars, the arrest of more than 50 million of our fellow citizens, we've never managed to stop even one child from getting their hands on their drug of choice.
And how optimistic are you about the moves in recent states in the United States to decriminalize cannabis?
Well, this has been an unprecedented thing, especially for the US, which was the start of the war on drugs, the initiator, and it then exported its policies abroad. It's kind of funny that it's now leading the world in terms of the pace of marijuana reform. And actually, it's not just decriminalization, it's actually legalization. So there's 23 states with medical marijuana and 4 states now with legal recreational marijuana, and we have a vote in California and other states coming up. And so far, we've seen good results from it. I mean, it's only 2 years in, so there will still be a number of years where we can study the results. But what we've seen is the sky hasn't fallen, and actually some places crime has gone down, traffic fatalities have gone down, especially in Colorado where they did it. And we can't say that's the direct result of legalization, but we can say that legalization didn't lead to an increase in negative results. And another great thing about legalization that is directly resulted from that is that arrests have gone down. They've plummeted by up to 84% in Colorado, and resources have been gained for the state to put into public education and health.
It's such a criminal justice approach right now versus a health approach. And so my son used alone because of the stigma and shame that he felt. He was only 16, and he was afraid to tell anybody or to get help. And so he died, using alone. And so that's why I've just decided to not be quiet, to tell our story. And I'm not ashamed of my son. He was an amazing child. But my story is way too common. Our children are dying, and the billions of dollars and a failed war on drugs, there has to be another answer. And not one more mom should be standing here like me.
And despite mass incarceration in the United States at record levels, particularly on drugs charges, 70% of Americans now feel that the drugs policy is unsuccessful, and 50% are in favor of decriminalization.
Right.
Are you optimistic about the change in public opinion, their influence on lawmakers in the coming decade?
I am. I think we have a huge battle in front of us, though, with decriminalization, which I do support. But boy, there's still a lot of people here who see using drugs as a moral failure, an ethical issue, and I really see it as a human rights issue. But you know, coming from Illinois, there's a lot of people there who do not. Everybody's still about put the dealer in jail, put the users in jail, bring the. You know, I had a sheriff say, we're going to bring the hammer down on these users, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's not how we're going to get people to stop or get them help. So, yeah, we got a lot of work, but at least the conversation's happening. At least this is happening. We'll see what happens in the UN.